50 is an entire textbook that says math, uses of math in real life. Okay? And it's like figuring out your mortgage payments. I mean, buying cars. I mean, stuff nowadays that you would plug into your phone, right, and it would give you. But I mean, they're very complicated things. I mean, they're things that I do, but I'm weird. But I was looking. I'm constantly looking for things to say this is where you use this. And some of the things I honestly say you'll never use this math. But what we're trying to teach here is a way of thinking, a way of approaching a problem. Taking something and going, okay, this is the question. Write an algebraic expression. And by that I mean, what do you need to know? And then go, and then you sit there and think, I know this, I have no idea what that is. And then how do you find that stuff? But it's taking a huge problem and breaking it down. I say, every time you and your spouse or you go, I want to buy a coat or I want to buy a car, that's a math problem.
But see, no, the average, why do you do that and most math teachers don't? Now, I'm not saying you guys aren't here, but, I mean, why did that occur to you to do that?
Well, to me it has to be relevant. Relevant, yes, thank you. It has to be, there has to be some connection to why, I mean, I know why I like math, but that's not a normal person's response. I mean, you know, I happen to luck out in having several male teachers as a child who taught math, and I can't diagram a sentence to save my life or spell. But math and science I'm good at. I had male teachers. Okay? Well, no, it's just that when I took the female teachers shied away from math and science, and my male teachers stressed it.
There's a lot of research on that.
There's a lot of research.
It's not a female thinking process.
It comes from the family background also.
Right.
Because you have kids, most of the families are expecting their boys to be good at math and science, and the girls to be good at art.
I think that's a cultural issue.
It comes from basis from family and cultural backgrounds.
Everything they attend.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Give it your all.
Yeah.
Does it always work out that way?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But
No.
that, you know, that's
Yeah,
what
I do the same
expect.
thing with my kids. I expect them to be equally humble.
I mean, really, as far as I know, recent brain education, whatever you want to call it, is saying that the female mind is much more attuned to doing higher mathematics than the male.
But a female has to believe that.
Yes, that's the difference. And that's the belief, I mean, that's the major belief thing. And I can say in my class, I hear that all the time too. And my response to that generally is to reframe the question immediately. They say, I hate math. You mean math is a challenge for you right now? I immediately try and reframe it.
Yeah, it is a challenge to change the students' attitude, because some of them, they just...
My goal is not to get them to love math, just so they're not scared of it.
Yeah.
If I can get them to where they're not scared of it, then job.
Yeah, I mean, people think that you have to love it to be good at it.
No.
You know, and that's not true about anything.
We give everybody a calc problem here, and you go home just because you love it. That's your Saturday not doing that.
One other thing, I think of is, it's not just my perspective, but a lot of the things for today's kids who are trying to learn math is already done for them. For example, like when you go to the grocery store and buy stuff, how many people would you think would go after the list and add it up to see how much it adds up to? When you're making a credit card payment, would you ever calculate how much your interest is, or how your interest is calculated? So most of the things are already done for you, and you didn't really care about it. How many people would have gone and look after their gas electric bill and see how much per unit of gas you're paying for? how math is done? Are you charged correctly? I don't think so many people
No,
do that.
I can relate here
So
with
you
the,
are already, you are already exposed to something, math is already done for you, so why do you care about it?
Calculators too, I have a lot of students that, they have a lot of trouble with signs. And they don't care because they can put in the calculator, -10 + 5. They don't understand it's gonna be, what the answer is, because they put it all that in the calculator. They can't, I understand for a lot of equations, use the calculator, we're not gonna be calculating the 7th root of something, all the time in the middle of the exam, but you can't figure out what a negative and a plus is, because you put it in a calculator all the time, and then they make mistakes because they put it wrong in a calculator.
That's one of the main things.
Squared is -1. -2 squared is -4.
That's one of the main things that I've learned since I've started tutoring is how I've somehow over the years learned to know what's okay to put in the calculator and what I can do myself.
Yeah.
And that was a real shock to me where my students didn't have that line of, this is the square root of 7,694. Of course I'm going to plug it into my calculator. Whereas some other problem, to them it looks just as daunting.
Yes.
Right? Where I have that notion of this is a calculated problem, this doesn't. So to get them to understand the difference is
so here we have that old 2.0 class to where they're not allowed to use their calculator until they pass all the comp tests, which are your basic integrals, fractions, and then decimals. So they have to be able to work those out by hand and then use the calculator. But I have had SI students in 131 even plug in the negative, plus the negative. And I look at it, what do you do? I take the calculator away. You cannot use this until I say so, Because it's kind of like, is this the break line? And then whatever answer they get, because it's a calculator, it has to be right, regardless of how you put that in there. Yeah.
You want to add something before we close?
It's a bit old, but going back to like the understanding, making sense of the story problems, I don't think it's just a multicultural issue, but also a problem here, like with people who are born and raised in the United States. A way it might be worded, like for someone who has taken like English lit, for example. I mean, there's math problems, there's story problems that goof me up all the time just by the wording of them. And I've noticed that over assigned for different levels, that critical skill of being able to take a story problem and turn it into an equation, that's a really, really, really important skill to have. And a lot of students are neglecting it. They're trying to overlap it, ignore it, when that's actually the most, in my opinion, one of the most important pieces of mathematics is being able to take a real life problem and make sense of it into mathematics, whereas I turn it into an equation that's universally accepted.
if you ever read a math textbook, you'll see how difficult it is to write a concise definition or theorem or problem, but still have all the information you need. So you can almost peer into these people's minds as they're writing this theorem where they have the thing they want to say, right? But then they say, well, it's only true if this is true. So they write that. They say, well, I guess it's not technically true if this is true, right? And then by the end of it, there's the theorem is a paragraph long, and really the thing they meant to say was one sentence, but then the student looks at that and says, oh my God, this is horribly complex, right?
And like he was mentioning, there's no cultural problem, it's probably an overall problem. Me and Robert were discussing that while we were constructing the presentation. We talk about how the age is a big contributor to it. If the student has any disabilities that they have not been concerned about or they haven't been approached, I don't know what else to talk about.
Going on cultural, it's not just immigration culture either. It's American culture.
Right.
It's
The
sort
culture,
of
the
environment
culture,
too.
the culture
It's
in
yeah.
Louisiana is very different than the
Yes,
culture
right.
here. I have a paramedic background along with my tutoring. the National Registry Test, which is devised for licensing paramedics and EMS personnel in the United States. There are some states that don't follow it, they do their own testing, but they had to change certain questions because of cultural issues for just inside the US. So,
Good work,
Does anybody wants to add anything?
'cause it's about lunchtime.
Yeah.
Can we give Sophia and Robert another hand for doing such a great job?